Thank you, Rick, and thank you to our audience for tuning in. As Rick mentioned, today we're going to focus on the big trends in media, entertainment, and advertising, and the resulting impact on data. Throughout the day, we're going to hear from customers and partners who will share their insights about privacy and how it has to be embedded into the fabric of every business. They will also talk about how they use data to drive customer acquisition, engagement, and monetization. In the past, data leaders had to conduct a balancing act between data access and governance. Too much access meant opening up the business to risk. But if you hold back data, you can't deliver great experiences and value to customers. With the Media Data Cloud, companies are letting go of the balancing act. They now have a single platform to store, govern, and share data while maintaining strict data governance. And they can make data accessible to drive business outcomes. To kick things off, we will talk to two customers and hear their perspectives on using data in media and advertising. So joining me today are two amazing leaders with extensive experience in driving data programs and results. First, I'd like to introduce Joe Churchill, SVP of Data Services at ViacomCBS, and also Louqman Parmapath, VP of Product Management at Roku. Welcome, Joe and Louqman. Joe, would you mind kicking us off with an overview of ViacomCBS and your role?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be invited. ViacomCBS delivers premium content to billions of people worldwide through our studios, networks, streaming services, live events, and merchandise. Our studios create content for all audiences across every genre and format. In the streaming space, our strategy has been to scale rapidly by both offering a free ad-supported content platform through Pluto TV and our premium subscription-based content through Paramount+. Myself, I've been at ViacomCBS for 15 years. My focus is mainly on the data space. I'm a shared service across the enterprise. We do data integration and business intelligence, and we were an early adopter of Snowflake. Very happy to bring it into the company and really take advantage of its nimbleness.
Welcome, Joe. And next, I'd like to welcome Louqman Parmapath, VP of Product Management at Roku. Thank you so much for joining us, Louqman. Could you tell us a bit about Roku and your role at the company?
Hello, everybody. This is Louqman Parmapath. I work for Roku. As you may know, Roku is a streaming player. We have our streaming operating system that is in our players, pucks and sticks, basically, as we call it, that is sold all across the US and increasingly globally. And we also license our operating systems to many, many TV OEMs. We also, the primary way in which we drive revenue for the company is partly by the hardware business that I just talked about, but also by monetizing our users with advertising and a share of subscription and transaction revenue that plays out on our platform post the user starting to use our platform. I am responsible for product management across our entire advertising stack. That means I'm responsible for building the advertising platform that powers the monetization of our users on the platform. This includes everything from at the ad serving capability, programmatic capability, data measurement, and anti-fraud capabilities that we build out to ensure that Roku has one of the preeminent connected TV ad stacks out there in the world.
Thank you both so much for joining. Let's dive into our first topic around privacy standards and data governance. How has the increased attention to data security and consumer privacy impacted your companies? Louqman, let's start with you. How has this affected Roku?
Yeah, good question. Thank you for asking. As you know, Roku is first and foremost a consumer company, right? We look for experiences on the platform that is very simple, easy to use for our consumers. And privacy just falls into the general category of things that is foremost in our mind because it is key to our users. We want to do privacy in such a way that it is simple and transparent to the user on how we actually collect the data, collect data or other signals from the users and store it, and that they have the right set of controls and capabilities to manage our usage of that data. So primarily for us, privacy is a consumer first concept in our minds, and we aspire to build controls that are clear and easy to our users and also very, very transparent. An example here is, a lot of platforms out there talk about our consent mechanisms and opt-in and opt-out capabilities, and we want to go beyond that to provide an entire privacy hub to our users to give them very, very clear direction on how the data we may be able to collect on the platform is used by us or our partners in the ecosystem, and we make sure that the user has enough controls to actually limit or kind of allow or approve the usage of it. The other thing we have seen changes around or some movement around in the past couple of years with the heightened sensitivity and knowledge about privacy and trends around privacy is, advertisers and publishers on the platform has also come around to accept very, very similar controls, right? So we are working with our partners to ensure that what we do on the platform is not just true for Roku, but also true for partners on our platform. And one other thing that I'll just highlight here is, as the industry is evolving, how we share data, how we talk about data, how we use it to create great experiences to the user, both from a content consumption perspective and from an advertising and targeting perspective. Better ways to collaborate there, like with technologies such as Snowflake and others, are becoming more and more important, and that is becoming a bigger and bigger way in which how we look at solving for some of these problems.
Joe, how are you seeing these evolving trends impact ViacomCBS?
Well, our initial concern is really around focusing on collecting first-party data correctly and accurately. We have a number of properties that are on multiple stacks, and the big challenge that our marketing teams have is ensuring that we've got a consistent presence to our customers, and we're leveraging Snowflake to collect our data from our multiple properties and bring it all together to unify and solve the challenges that are coming up with all the changes in the legislation.
Thanks, Joe. How has the Data Cloud helped you solve these privacy challenges and make data accessible and actionable? And what made Snowflake the right partner for you? Louqman, can you share some of your perspectives from Roku?
Yeah, first thing I'll say is it's about use cases that are important to us while preserving privacy that we just talked about. One of the most exciting things about the recent technological advances that that enable things like the Data Cloud is that it can enable data collaboration in use cases with our partners without any data leaving our Roku ecosystem and never compromising on a strong privacy protection for our streamers that I just talked about, right? So clean room, we do understand clean room and data collaboration is a hard problem. And it has many, many different layers to solve across, right? Which is, you start with the infrastructure aspect of it, then the privacy enhancing techniques that you can build on top of it. How do we actually enable for identity? What is the right kind of interfaces when it interacts with other parts of the system and so on? So we do realize that it is a hard problem. So when we were looking to jumpstart this initiative, we were also looking for partners that had this necessary experience building something like this. And we looked for a couple of things primarily. One is flexibility, which is how does it differentiate with other partners, but also as we build, how can we add more use cases and adapt quickly as we learn about how the technology is working, and also as we learn about how our customers and partners are expecting this to work, right? So flexibility was a primary ingredient in our decision-making process around working with a partner. And the other one is just scale and adoption. And we noticed that a lot of our partners that we are already talking to are in some parts of their business working with Snowflake. So this helped us think through, this is a way in which we can get started faster and potentially accelerate some of the use cases that we are trying to solve, both on the sell side for publishers, on the buy side for advertisers, and also for our consumers more broadly.
Joe, what are some of your thoughts? Could you share the data needs you have at ViacomCBS and how Snowflake has enabled your data strategy?
Well, like Louqman, we also need to collaborate. We have, as I mentioned, we've got our properties scattered across all three major cloud providers. And one of the things I really like about Snowflake is the common tech stack. So no matter which cloud provider you're using, when you start to leverage the Snowflake platform, you've got very common paradigms to leverage. You've got your staging areas, you've got your queries, you've got your warehouses, and the ability to scale up and scale back as needed. To me, that's really the benefit of using Snowflake as a foundation for collaboration across the enterprise. And as you extend that out, as we start to look at third-party people we work with, like for instance, Braze is one of our partners, they also are embracing Snowflake and the ecosystem around that and making it easier for us to get our data from them. And that goes beyond just the media space as well. We also partner with a company out of Arkansas who works with Walmart for consumer products. And as our point of sale data comes into their system for being managed, access to the point of sale data they're collecting on our behalf from our partners who are selling our branded product in Walmart and other stores. We leverage Snowflake environment for that too. So it's not just a media only play for us. It really is a foundational technology that we can leverage effectively across multiple groups.
So let's dig a little bit deeper into the consumers of data across your organizations. Louqman, you mentioned that to power your advertising business, identity, enrichment, and monetization are key pillars to your growth. How has the data cloud enabled you to bring those capabilities in-house, and what has been the impact on your business?
Yeah, I mean those are important pillars of our growth, right? You name them well: identity, enrichment, data enrichment, and increasing monetization here based on that, right? So in many ways, we work with many partners already around identity solutions, some third-party partners and some tech providers. And one of the benefits we have as a consumer-facing platform is access to, and Joe referred to this as access to first-party data, right? We have first-party relationship with 50 million, 55 million plus households in the country and internationally, right? And it is important to build an identity spine that is primarily premised on those relationships and managing those relationships in a very, very privacy compliant manner, right? So when we look at identity and how we can look at our unique advantages around that first party relationship, and that every user on the Roku platform is a logged in user, we we are building solutions that are fundamentally data rich, and we have to hold on to that data. So technologies like Snowflake, where we can collaborate with other partners and build out identity capabilities, on other identifiers that may or may not rely on third parties, is an important way to continue to augment our augment our credentials around privacy as identity evolves. And in terms of other use cases, right, some of the initial use cases that we are looking at with respect to our work with Snowflake is around planning, is around measurement and activation, right? This requires data sets from multiple sources to come in, both unique data sets that we have and other data assets that an advertiser may have. And how do we bring that together in such a way where we can honor our privacy contract with our consumers? We still have it primarily anonymized, but also it shows the value of buying media on our platform to our advertisers, right? So these use cases around planning, forecasting, measurement, and ultimately, activation are all ones that we are initially testing with and are excited about with our Snowflake integration.
So data clean rooms have been a hot topic, and you are at the forefront of innovation here. How do data clean rooms enable you to improve privacy and at the same time deliver value to your advertisers?
I may have answered a part of this in the previous question that we talked about, but ultimately, the fact that we are fully committed to protecting our streamers' privacy and keeping our data, the data that we have on our users on our side of the fence, so to speak, is important. Clean rooms effectively offer us a way to do that. And in terms of the use cases I referred to in the previous question, right, providing insights and reporting and measurement, we often look at those in in the form of aggregated capabilities and aggregated insights and analytics that can use our data but does not leave our ecosystem, but still provide the kind of value that an advertiser, a buyer of a media is looking for, right? So that's where we spend a lot of time on testing and validating and working with your team on the data clean room initiative. And going back towards privacy, right? The stand around privacy for us is we make no compromises around that, right? If there is a trade-off to be made there, ultimately we need to figure out a way in which our commitments to our users, because we are such a consumer focused company, cannot be compromised. We are continuously looking at ways in which we can improve the privacy infrastructure and the privacy capabilities you build on top of these kind of environments.
Joe, the Pluto TV team is quite advanced in their use of data. Could you share how that team is using data to improve both experiences for subscribers and advertising outcomes?
Sure. So Pluto's an interesting case because it was rewritten, the platform was rewritten from the ground up using Snowflake as the backbone. We take advantage of Snowpipe for real-time data loading, and we also take advantage of clean rooms or data sharing to support our current use cases with third-party content providers. This allows people at ViacomCBS, not on the Pluto team, to see what's happening on the channels without jeopardizing our agreements with our third-party content providers. Meaning, someone can feel confident that when they put their content on our platform, people who aren't supposed to see the data won't see the data.
And Joe, at ViacomCBS, you also use data sharing across your business units. Can you share a bit on how data sharing is so valuable to your organization?
So data sharing allows us to provide access to data to groups that are interested in seeing what's happening on a platform without violating our agreements on data access. Said another way, the Pluto TV team can allow the marketing team, the corporate research marketing team, to see what the viewership is of content without divulging who the viewers are or even the cohorts behind the viewership. We also use it, as I mentioned earlier, multiple properties across multiple clouds. So data sharing allows us to bring that data from multiple cloud providers into a central area so that we can do unified reporting.
Joe and Louqman, thank you both so much for sharing your insights into your strategies and also your data-driven use cases. I'm very curious to know what each of you sees coming next. So now that you have a strong data foundation with the data cloud, what new use cases and innovation do you see coming up in the market? Anything you could share with our audience? Louqman, let's start with you.
Sure. I mean, some quick thoughts there. One is these technologies will continue to evolve, right? We are still at the very, very early stages, the forefront of how a lot of these technologies that cater to the changing privacy needs of the ecosystem will evolve, right? I mean, I can see where much more sophisticated applications are built on top of on data cloud, right? Where you're running complex models and algorithms that use vast and varied data sets across different sources and different partners, and still stick to the letter of the law in terms of honoring privacy needs and consumer consent and so on. So that's number one. The second part of it is, increasingly, I think we might see changes play out where more of the data in environments like streaming environments may sit on the device itself, right, on the client itself. And so there is no reason to believe why some of this could be purely enterprise level tech. It is very likely that some of the technology may actually be part of the consumer devices and ultimately offer even more control to consumers on device level data that they store on streaming platforms and streaming players like such as Roku. And the third point I would make here in terms of how this could play out is this is fairly well made in industry right now, is non-first party backed identities will matter less and less. One of the side effects of the changes that we are seeing in the industry is that the challenges that you have with synthetic identifiers and identifiers that require a lot of translation service and all of that becomes harder and harder. And the kind of unique advantages you get with having a first party relationship with the consumer and kind of managing that relationship in a way that you continue to build trust and honor your contract with the consumer and ultimately become the primary, become a true steward of consumers' data, that will play out to be more and more important in the future.
Thanks, Louqman. So Joe, how about you? Could you share the opportunities you are investigating right now?
Well, with respect to the market, it's not my forte, but my forte really is around the platform itself. And one of the areas I see a huge boom coming is in self-service. So what I envision happening is having these enterprise data sets available to end users, and us enabling them to bring their own data to the table, to augment the enterprise data sets and do some what-if analysis. Now, data sharing, again, comes up because that's how we facilitate the sharing of the data with end users, and the ability to give them what they need, which is the ability to query very large data sets very effectively and very quickly, while still letting them do work outside of the overview and the bureaucracy that sometimes exists within the tech world.
Really great insights. And so with that, I'd like to thank our panelists for being here today. It was a pleasure having you on the Media Data Cloud Summit, and I'm sure our audience enjoyed listening to your perspectives. Next up, I'm going to hand things off to Bill Stratton, Head of Media, Entertainment and Advertising here at Snowflake. Bill is going to provide a synthesis of the Media Data Cloud and how it's driving business value in the sector. Thank you again to our panelists, and over to you, Bill.